Welcome back to the Pro Series Podcast, episode 180. Today's guest is Eddie Taimuty. I'm really excited about this one, not just because it's an in-person episode, but it's about a project that is coming to the city of Pittsburgh. I love seeing all these new projects come to the city of Pittsburgh. This is on the north side. It's an old bread and breakfast that he and his family is turning into a hotel, cigar bar, and restaurant, which I'm so excited to go see when it's done. But they also have some commercial space, some retail space with a wellness center. And they also have a background in flipping residential homes. So it was really cool to talk about both sides. He also has a background in the trade. So we talk and dive a little deep into the trades and the struggle with the trades nowadays with people going into them and really the lack of people going into them. But it's a great conversation. But before we get into this podcast, please like, subscribe, and review the Pro Series Podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts. And now I hope you enjoy episode 180 with Eddie Taimuty. Eddie, thank you so much for coming on the Pro Series Podcast. Excited to have you on here. I think we just met on Instagram just naturally and thought you had an interesting story and you had a couple of businesses I want to talk about. So thank you for taking the time out of your day.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, let's get a little background on you, your restaurants, your project you're going on right now. Was that something that you've always wanted to do, or is that something that you just developed in the past year?
Yes and no. Not quite exactly like this. But I've always wanted to own a hotel and I've always wanted to own a restaurant.
Okay.
The way that they kind of worked together was like just an awesome thing, but it wasn't like I set out to buy a hotel.
Yeah.
It just kind of happened.
Did you go to school for business or something?
Yeah. So I went to a 2-year welding school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like growing up, I don't know, school, just like high school, like school wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I don't know
for
why.
everybody. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like one of those things I just, wasn't for me. So I didn't want to go to like a 4-year school and continue my education that way. So figured I would just get a trade under my belt, and I'm a big car guy, so I was like, I'll go into welding, see what that's like. I loved it. So 2 years of welding school, and then got out and got a job, and then I realized I hated working for people. So
okay.
It was like one of those things, and then like long story short, my parents were stepping from their businesses, and so we started getting into real estate, and then. Yeah, it just kind of.
What part of real estate, like agents, or are you just developing properties and?
No,
selling?
so we started out with vacation rentals actually
In Pittsburgh?
No, in Deep Creek.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
Yeah, yeah. There's not too much vacationing in Pittsburgh unless you're coming to the hotel. But so we got into that originally, and then we decided to try to flip a house.
Okay.
Went pretty well, and then kept doing that. And then finally got one that was a dud, and got into Section 8 real estate. A friend of ours turned us on to Section 8 and was like, hey, if you can't sell it, see what you could do. Like, see if this is an area that the government's willing to help you out with. And that worked. So we started getting into Section 8 real estate, and then kind of flipping and doing all that. And then, my mother's business was in a large commercial building in Cannonsburg.
Okay.
COVID hit, and she had retired, so that building was commercial rentals for businesses. There was like a couple tenants in it, just enough to keep the lights on. Then COVID hit, and it was just like completely empty. And all around the same time, I was transitioning into becoming president of the company. And everyone's like, what do we want to do? I'm like, sell it. Let's cash out. Let's get rid of this property. And literally listing it one day. And my mom calls me, and she's like crying. She's like, I have too much sentimental value. We can't sell it. I'm like, what are we going to do? And then that's when my sister brought the idea for the market house to the table. And we ran with that.
So you basically just redid what her building was to this new business.
Correct. Yeah. It's a 2-story, 12,000 square foot office building. And we went in and just redid the whole thing to basically be like a family-owned Sola with multiple different businesses. So
That's
it's not
awesome.
just hair. Yeah.
Yeah, this is interesting because I don't have a lot of guests that do commercial stuff or commercial retail, hospitality type of stuff. It's mostly all like house flippers.
Right.
So coming in on this angle is going to be cool. How much have you done a residential? So do you know the difference between like the flipping of it all?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's how we started, was residential.
Oh, okay.
Just flipping little single family homes, and then even the rental portfolio. As I was starting to take over the company, I got like real big into Section 8. Like I was following a bunch of people on Instagram and listening to a lot of podcasts, and like the Section 8, it was like, oh, you could make a lot of money on this. So, and you could do a good thing. Like you could really give back and help out. Yeah. Like help a lot of people. And that was the angle that we took. Cause there was a lot of people that were like basically slumlording it. And so like I would sit down one-on-one with the prospective tenants and like hear their story and, fish out the bad ones and find like the single mother that's literally trying to provide a better life for her kids. Yeah. And so like we'd bring them on and we would do the place nice. Like we would, like the first one I was talking about, we thought it was going to be a flip house. So we did it like we were going to sell it to a single family, and then it became Section 8. So we just kind of rinse and repeated all that. And then did a couple other flips in between as well, and then got into the commercial. So definitely
both. Which one do you prefer?
I would say now I prefer commercial.
Oh, really? I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. But at the time, if you would have asked me 3-4 years ago, I would have said residential just because that's what I was comfortable with. And I think commercial it was unknown. Yeah. It seemed like, big and intimidating.
So much more to it.
There is. Yeah. But once you get into it, it's, in my opinion, it's easier because it's people that are coming in to run their business, and you have to. I say that coming from the perspective of we set up like a luxury setting. Like there's, I'm sure there's situations where commercial real estate is not fun. Yeah. But we got very fortunate with the people that we have in our property, and I think that's what makes it so enjoyable. But definitely commercial for me.
Yeah, and you're in a different type of, commercial real estate is struggling now for like office space and stuff. Like
definitely.
Work, like corporate world stuff.
Right.
But you're in a completely different sector of it.
Right. And I think that's part of it too. Like if we would have kept that just as office, like I said, we were selling it. Yeah. So, I think with our unique concept is what makes our commercial properties so, unique and enjoyable.
So going into your project now, the hotel and the cafe and stuff, what about that? Like, why'd you do it? Like, did you see it on Facebook as a foreclosure? Like, what made you want to do that?
No, this one was, so the idea stemmed from the Market House. So we call it Solaio Bellezza Market House. And that's the one in Canonsburg. So my sister brought the idea to me, and we filled it with 20 small businesses. There's 8 hair salons. There's we have everything, a big med spa in there, some retail, soap and candle, clothes, brows, lashes, nails. Like ladies can come in and they could spend a whole day there, and they can jump around, support all these small businesses. And my office was in there. I was running the real estate business out of that building.
Okay.
And it I don't know, it was just like one of those things where as it developed, it was so cool. And I'm thinking to myself, like, we don't have anything like this for a more like masculine audience. Like guys don't have anywhere like this.
Yeah.
Like women have like all these solas and places that they could go.
That's what I was thinking of. So it's like a sola, like
it's very
they rent the space.
Yes, it's very
Gotcha.
similar. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have like all these, small sections, but they're built out like a storefront. Like we have like, the glass storefronts and whatever.
Yeah.
But they're small family owned businesses, but we're not like, and I'm friends with the owner of Sola. Like I have nothing against Sola, but we just took the concept and we made it better. It's like we have like communal seating and all sorts of things. We do seasonal events where outside vendors come in, things like that. So, the small businesses can promote to the public and things like that. Yeah. So it's very similar.
And it's very similar to the when you were doing residential too, because you're kind of you're making their dream come true. But this time it's actually a business, not their house, like where they're living.
It was really, really cool to see, especially at the beginning, because it was literally me and my 2 younger sisters that were like, hey, we have this big commercial building. Like, why don't you take a shot with us with your business? And, we were like, it was like miss shot after miss shot. And then eventually like people were like, oh, let's take a shot with this. And it just kind of exploded from there. Like under a year, we filled the building, and every business, every tenant that we have is just phenomenal. Like the community is incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really neat. But yeah, that's kind of what spiked the idea. I started looking for something a property that we could apply it to. And then I always went to the Nova Place building, that Federal Galleys in there. So
the old mall.
Yeah, right. So me and my friends would always eat down there, and I would always drive down Western Avenue to get there, coming from TJ down 51. And for whatever reason, and this like sounds like one of those things like, oh, whatever, but every time I would drive down Western Avenue, I was always drawn to this property, the new project. And I would joke around with my friends. I'd be like, I'm going to buy that one day.
Oh, that's cool.
I'd be like, knock it off, whatever. And then like, I don't know, probably a year ago when I was thinking about that idea, I looked it up, wasn't for sale. I'm like, whatever, looking for a ton of other properties in between. Nothing really stuck. And then about 6 months ago, I looked it up again. And it was for sale. And then it just kind of
meant to be.
Went to look for it, looked at it, and then it just snowballed.
How do you so you go and buy it? How do you go about and find businesses that actually want to go into it?
I mean, for anyone that wants to do something like that, I recommend being extremely bold and confident. I mean, that's like literally all it is. Like I'm the type of guy that like, if I wanted the restaurant in there. So I made a list of restaurants that I felt would do really well in there. And I just started DMing people and calling them. And, you get 100 no's, but then there's that one person that's like, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all you have to do.
Yeah, it's it.
Yeah, the worst thing they could say is no. That's when I started this podcast, I just started asking everybody.
Yeah.
Because it was mostly on Zoom. I wasn't doing in-persons, but the worst thing they said is no, or they ignore you. Like, you're not going to see them again.
Yeah.
You're missing out. Who cares?
Yeah. As soon as you messaged me, I'm like, absolutely. Like, I would love to go on and talk. And,
It's the whole thing of networking. It's just so much easier nowadays to do.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And the people that aren't interested in it, to me, it's like, forget them. If you don't want the opportunity, that's fine.
They'll look back and it's probably like your friends now are like, he's not going to buy that house. Yeah, he got it.
Yeah, right.
So when's this going to open?
So we are shooting we don't have an exact date, but sometime in May. So we really want it to be, there's a beautiful courtyard on the property as well. So we want it to be like turn of the weather spring, not too hot in June, but like, we always get a snow after Easter in Pittsburgh.
Unfortunately,
yeah. So, we're looking at like May so that it's warm out. We could utilize the courtyard, and so it won't interfere with like any holidays or, the graduation party season, things like that. Yeah.
So where is it in the north side compared to like Nova Place and all the other stuff?
So it's literally 2 blocks behind Acrisure Stadium, which I like to call it Heinz.
I still say that. It's stupid. The stupidest name ever.
Yeah. And then don't get me started with the IC light sign, but
that's even worse.
Right. So we're like 2 blocks back from the stadium. And then we're basically, if you were on Western and you kept going straight, you would drive into Nova Place.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
that's a prime location.
It's a great location. Yeah, especially right now. Like I think that strip of Northside is really coming back hard.
Yeah, they are. And I've seen more and more Airbnbs going up that way.
For sure.
Who did I just talk to? Do you know Discover the Berg on Instagram?
I'm sure I do follow them.
You should talk to him once. I'll give you his contact. Okay. But he goes to restaurants, museums, and stuff, and kind of like reviews them and stuff, but that's what he does. But he lives over there next to Randyland.
Randyland. Okay, yeah. That's not too far from us either. Yeah.
But they're with the hospital there, and
Hospital's prime.
both stadiums,
right?
Easy thing, concerts,
right?
Like it's easy rental.
It's a great location. Yeah. We're on. Are you familiar with the North Side at all?
Like a little bit.
Okay, I don't know if you know like Pepe's or Modern Cafe. So that it's like the historical strip on Western Avenue.
Okay.
So as soon as you come over the West End Bridge, if you go onto Western, and then it's like you'll start to see there's like the 7-Eleven on the corner.
Yep.
And then as soon as you pass that, you'll get into like that historical area, and we're right on that strip. So it's really a neat spot.
And if I'm thinking of the correct place, it's just everybody's buying it up and everything down there.
Yeah, it's flying.
Like
and it
5-10 years ago, it wasn't. No.
Yeah, it was actually like not the place to be.
Yeah,
and then,
exactly.
And then they dumped a ton of money into the Mexican war streets, and then it just kind of started to spread from there.
That's another good point. People actually come to Pittsburgh to see that.
Yes, for sure.
So that's another way people could just stop at your place.
Yeah.
Or stay at your place.
Yeah.
How many rooms are going to be in there?
So we are going to have 9 rooms. One of them is going to be a double, and one ADA compliant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think back onto your Instagram. Are they like themed?
They are themed. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, for the people that don't know that property, it is an 1800s Victorian mansion. So it was originally built for the Rhodes family, which is the family that started the railroads in Pittsburgh. So like Grand Concourse, like that family.
Dang.
The money that these people had and put into this place is incredible.
Yeah.
For back then, anyways, it's gorgeous. Like they didn't spare any change. And so what we're going to do is convert it into the Italian themed boutique hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And each room is going to be designed after a city in Italy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So each time you come, you could stay in the Rome room. Next time you could stay in the Amalfi Coast room, the Calabria room, the Italian Alps on the top floor. And
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm guessing you've been to.
No.
You're just Italian, and you just wanted to bring that theme into it.
Yeah. My family, part of my family's from Italy, and so like it's a huge part of my family's culture.
Yeah.
We've always wanted to go, and we've planned it a couple times, but it's always fallen through. But yeah, I mean, that's a dream of mine would be to go.
Yeah,
see Italy,
absolutely. Because it'd be cool to bring stuff back from each city to put in the rooms.
Yeah, and
I
think once it gets off the ground, I think that is what we're going to do is go there and stay in these places, because the way we did it was my sister Jessica and I, she's my VP. We did a ton of research on the Airbnbs and the boutique hotels that are actually in these cities.
Okay,
and we tried to imitate that the best that we could with the design for each room.
Okay.
But there's nothing like going there and seeing it and experiencing it.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
So going through this and you buy the building, was there any like horror stories of like finding something in the walls and anything like that?
No,
really?
Not yet.
Who owned it before that?
So prior to us, it was a gentleman named Ed Menzer.
Okay.
And he was running it under the name the Parador Inn. So
it was a hotel.
It was a bed and breakfast.
Okay.
So the only difference is a bed and breakfast, you have to supply the guests with meals or breakfast.
Gotcha.
So when I switched over to Hotel Limited license, that allows us to put the restaurant in there and literally operate it as a hotel. So we're going to set it up to essentially be like a hybrid between an Airbnb and a hotel. So it'll be contactless self-check-in.
Okay.
So as soon as you book online, like you get your check-in code. Each room's going to have an electronic lock on it. So
perfect.
Yeah, so the code gets randomized for each guest. They could come in and, check in at 2:00 in the morning if they want to, or if it's during the day, I'll be there to greet them, show them around, things like that.
That's smart. I think a lot of hotels are going to start going that way because like people are getting in at odd hours.
For sure.
You don't want to employ that every single day, having someone at the front desk.
Right. And I've done it myself. And then it's like, my key doesn't work. Like, who do I get a hold of? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
So is this the first and only, or do you think you're going to open this up and want to do another one?
Yeah, I since I became the president of the company, like my sisters and I just want to like make this company
big.
massive.
Yeah.
So like we want to keep doing these types of projects where it's, and it might not be exactly like this. I know boutique hotels are really going to be a massive trend in the real estate industry, like going into 2025, especially with the crackdowns on Airbnbs and then people not wanting to go to the corporate hotels. So that's kind of like that middle ground. So maybe, but definitely want to do something similar.
Yeah, because this is always like Marriott and Hilton are starting their own boutique hotels.
Right.
It's something that easily can be bought.
For sure.
Which is even better for business.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And something I think you said off camera, and we didn't record yet. It's hard to keep that all together, but you aren't going to be in control of the restaurant or cigar bar. You're basically the landlord.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So the restaurant and the cigar bar are independently owned, and they will be renting from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's different about the cigar bar than anything else?
So as far as like the comps?
Yeah, probably for anything else in the city.
Yeah. I would say that the way that we're going to be doing the cigar bar is we brought in very selective people. So like the people that I was calling for this project, I was like, who's going to be high class? Who's going to do this right? Who has the same vision as me? And, like we talked about, I finally found somebody that was like, yes. And then they came down and they're touring it. And we're like immediately on the same page. So Nikki, who's the restaurant owner, he's going to be partnering with the guy that's in the cigar industry that's going to be helping him run it. And Nikki's old school Italian. So
perfect.
Right. So the way that they're going to do the cigar bar is just like super old school, super classy, super intimate, and just you're able to have a conversation. You're able to relax and smoke your cigar and drink your whiskey like you're supposed to.
Yeah, not screaming.
Not yelling, no loud hip-hop music, no cheap drinks. And I think that, and not to knock on any of the cigar bars that are in Pittsburgh, but I think that's kind of, they felt they had to do that to appeal to the masses or to get larger crowds in. This is going to be more exclusive.
Yeah, I think you'll get the more serious cigar smokers, or like the people that are actually like buying cigars. Like my dad, he buys cigars once a month.
Right.
Like him and his friends.
Yeah.
I think they would rather go to a place like that respects it.
For sure.
Other than someone that has just rap music and just trying to draw in crowds.
Right.
Want it more quality.
For sure. Yeah. And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. The quality over quantity thing is definitely huge for us. And so I think that's the major difference that you'll see in this location for sure.
Very cool. So you think it's opening in late spring?
Yes.
And you bought it like last fall, you said?
I just closed December 19th.
Holy crap, that's a fast turnaround.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So it's ambitious, but it's, we do all of our own work.
Really?
And so that's part of the reason why we set such tight deadlines is because we're doing it.
Yeah,
so
you control it.
Yeah.
So like how many's you like doing it all?
Like 5 total, I would say. Yeah.
It's not a lot for a whole hotel and restaurant.
Yeah. And it's all family and friends. Like that's the only people that I'll work with is family and friends. Yeah. So, it's myself. My father comes down to help. My cousin Joey, shout out Cav Electric. He does all of our electrical work. Kowalski Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing and Electric. They do all our HVAC and our plumbing, not electric, plumbing. And then our buddy Marco helps us with painting, and it's just kind of like we all go down there, hang out, and bang it out. Yeah.
Are you recording all this?
I'm not. And every time we finish a project, I think to myself, like, we should have set up a GoPro in the corner of the room. Because something always crazy or funny happens. And then just to see the progress, like a time lapse would be cool. But my sister comes in, like every day or every other day and takes pictures and like short little like B-roll videos.
She does a good job with that.
Oh, she does an excellent job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been cool to see the background like you guys actually doing it all. And
Yeah.
like for later on in like life, if you're starting your new one or something,
Right.
it's just cool to tell
Just
that
to
story.
reflect too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not too late. We still have some projects. I'll have to get on her about it.
Yeah.
Tell her set
Well, at
something
least
up.
your next one, you could do it.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about, you talk about your welding, me having the background of construction and design. Labor is at an incredibly low rate right now.
For
like
sure.
kids are still getting pushed into college when they really shouldn't be going to college.
Right.
And I think there's still that mindset in schools, and I don't know who's to blame. Is it schools, parents? Like, I don't know.
Right.
But talk about that, like that transition from high school to labor. Because did you feel that stress of like, I have to go to college?
Yeah. I don't know. I've always been the type of person that's like, I don't know. Like, I just kind of do
what you want.
what I want to do.
That's nice.
You know, without sounding like a jerk. Like, I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that. This is what I want to do. So, but there was that stress of the pressure, I should say, not the stress of it, but it was like, yeah, I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I had, teachers and, friends and whatever, and like, this is what you need to do, or, you, especially like I grew up in Peters Township, like you're almost looked down upon if you don't do that.
Yeah.
But my family background, like we didn't really come from a ton of money. Nobody in my family went to college.
Oh, okay.
And they're all very successful. Like they've all become
very
successful. Yeah. So that's all I ever knew. I was like, I don't, what are you talking about? I don't need to go to college.
Yeah.
Like, so, but yes, there was definitely pressure. And, like I said, I knew that school wasn't for me because I didn't like high school. I didn't like the whole sitting in a chair and, learning things that I'm not going to need. And not that college is bad. I mean, there's definitely
that's its place
for sure. For, I want my doctor to go to college,
teacher, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. But for the masses, I think it's pushed, and I don't think it's necessary. So,
no, I know so many people that are so good with their hands.
Yes.
And they're in accounting.
Right.
Like they're in a cube every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing?
100%.
And they're just wasting their life away in a cube.
And they get depressed.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing what they are meant to do or what they want to do.
Yeah.
They're just doing what they think is right. And they find themselves stuck in the rat race. 9 to 5, working for someone they don't like, doing something they don't like, sitting on the T, it's.
Yeah. It's hard because, I mean, if you come from a family that pushes it, like, there's really nothing you could do there.
Yeah.
But it's hard to see and sell people on. There are successful cabinet makers out there, successful welders out there. You're probably, if you do know someone, they're not successful. Maybe they just have low motivation or something. It's not, it's like the one egg in the carton right there.
Right.
And they're judging it off of that. So they're like, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm just going to go to school. I know that's like the easy in, but you could go to school and get your master's and get your doctorate and still make nothing.
I know a lot of people that did that. They actually can't find a job, or they can't, they don't like what they're doing. And it's sad is really what it is.
It is really sad.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like I do so much in social media. I didn't go to school for marketing. I went to school for interior design, but I'm like, I could do a marketing job.
Right.
All this experience that I have, like you just make it a hobby. If you are stuck, make it a side gig, make it a hobby. But there's still so many people that are like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Like, I mean, at least try.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Yeah.
What's the worst thing going to happen?
Yeah. Right.
Most of the guests I have on this podcast are from the corporate world, and then they move into their, I say, passion career, like later in life, 30s, 40s. I'm like, I don't want to wait that long.
No. Yeah. Me either. And it's, you look at, and, you look at kind of the timeline of life, and when I was, coming out of high school, and a good portion of my friends did go to a 4-year college, and it was like, there was kind of like a little bit of like a, he's going to welding school type of thing. And then now it's like, okay, they've graduated and they've spent a few years in the workforce, and I'm like cruising with real estate, and it's just weird how it works. And if, I might have been behind them, at least from a society point of view, for a few years, but I was doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah. There's no ladder on what you're doing. Like in the corporate world, there's like entry level position, mid-level position, manager level position. You don't have to do that.
Right.
You could scale all the way up to the CEO price, like salary wise, in a year.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I think that's really important in life. That's why, I think that for the people that want to work for themselves, or, take up their hobby as a side gig or something that they're passionate about, I think it's so important to do that because it's freedom.
Yeah. And it's insanely good for your mental health.
Absolutely. 100% it is.
All these health issues that people have in the year.
Yeah.
It's because of like, you're not happy with your life.
Right. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. We're human beings. We're not designed to sit in a chair and stare at a computer all day long. And
I thought COVID would have changed that a little bit, which I think it did to an extent, but I still think there's people out there that are still, now they're back in that routine again. They're like, oh, that was just a break.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I'm like, come on.
Yeah. Right.
Like the universe kind of taught you a lesson right there and you didn't take it.
Right. Yeah, I know. And there are some people that are perfectly fine with doing the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
They're and that's fine. They don't want added stress. They don't want to take the risks. They don't want to, they're cool with that.
Yeah, they're comfortable.
And that's fine. But I do agree. I think that there is a large portion of people that were, destined to do more. And unfortunately they're not.
Yeah. And there's something I could just hear in your story. You don't enjoy being comfortable.
No.
No. Which is good.
Yeah.
And it shows
sometimes to a fault, but yes.
Yeah. It shows where you are.
Yeah.
And how you're kind of, like you said, you're kind of just blunt. You just go for it.
Yeah. Like it is what it is. Like
and change isn't an issue.
Yeah. No, you got to. You have to.
And that's the biggest thing that people struggle with, that wall of comfort.
Yeah. And I get it. I mean, I understand the fear of failing.
Yeah.
But you to get over it, you have to start trying, just do something. And if you screw up, whatever, move on.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
There's bigger problems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just don't do it on like a podcast or something that's going to be shown across the world.
Right.
Just don't do that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But it's true. And then that, it relates right back to the trades. I think that's why we have such a big problem. I'm sure you saw it in construction, and it's like, even me, that's why me and my family and my friends are the only ones that do the work on my projects, because they're the only people that I trust. They're the only people that are reliable. They're the only people that are affordable. They're the only people that I know of that can do the job the way I need it to be done. And it didn't used to be like that. Like in our father's generations, or especially our grandfather's generation, you hire a tradesman, it's going to be like knock out of the park.
Immaculate.
It's going to be excellent. They're not going to leave until it's done right. And you don't find that very much anymore.
Yeah. I was actually just reading a story yesterday, like Sears, the old department store, used to sell houses.
What?
Oh, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
You could there was a catalog and figure out what house you want, and they'd send you all the labor, all like the lumber, all the nails,
Seriously?
everything. Yeah. They're all over Pittsburgh. You once you know what the models look like,
yeah, you'll see.
It's a Sears home.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm like, the quality's insane compared to, like, I'm not going to say the companies nowadays, but the magazine type of homes.
Yes.
And I'm like, those people that built it are probably just like you, just putting it in and trusting themselves, or they're hiring someone that did this their whole lives. And nowadays, if you do that, you can't trust if they're going to take your money and run with it.
Right. It's scary.
It is really scary.
It's hard. That's why I'm very fortunate that I have, the family members and the family friends that are in these industries, because if not, like there were a couple times where, so-and-so was too busy, or, the job was too big, or you need this certain license or whatever. And I had to subcontract people. And it was like,
it's hard.
It was bad. Each time it went bad.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Well, it's a full-time job, just kind of being their dad.
Yes.
Making sure they're here on this time. And
tracking them down. Yeah. They don't answer the phone. Like, don't you want to make money?
Yeah.
You started the job.
Yeah.
And then, it's tough.
It's hard because you do find like one good guy or a girl, and you can't get them in because they're booked out, or they're too expensive. And I'm like, well, you deserve that because you are good at your job.
Right.
And that's just the hard part.
Yeah, it's tough. But it's, if you do find someone that's good, everyone knows that they're good. It's hard to get them.
Yeah.
It's hard to get them.
So since you went to school and welding and everything, do you use that trade at all?
I don't.
Really?
Yeah, and I miss it. I do. I've wanted to do something on a project where I could, utilize that skill, apply that skill. Haven't really found the need for it yet, but I would like to do something really neat. Now what I do is anything that I need fabrication for, or any type of metalworking, I always sub it out to either people I went to school with, my teachers, or my buddies from the job that I got out of welding school.
Okay.
And it's neat, like, to work with them again is really cool. And again, goes right back to trusting them and finding good work.
Yeah.
But my one welding teacher, who we actually became friends with, I don't even consider him my welding teacher anymore. He started his own company, Piece It Together Pittsburgh. And so they're going to be building the Villago sign.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
that's cool.
Yeah. So that's, prime example right there. I wish it was something that I could do, but I don't have the capability to do that. I don't have a shop. I just have like a little welder, and I don't have the time right now.
Yeah.
So that's when fab comes up, I send it to those guys. So it's going to be really neat, like a old European style metal hanging sign.
Okay.
So yeah, they're
That's gonna be
working
cool.
on that right now. Yeah.
Dang. I'm just amazed that you just closed on it in December.
Yeah. And it was a 6-month process. The whole, the deal was literally 6 months.
Dang.
It was a struggle.
So you started last spring, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
beginning
the
of summer?
first day we toured it was in April.
Dang. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Why is that? Just because it's historic and...
Lots of factors, commercial, the funding, the negotiations, the previous owner who, over the course of 6 months, I got to know very well, great guy. But he was sentimental. I mean, he lived there for 20 years. He poured his heart and soul into it. Didn't want to let it go. Didn't want to let it go for what I was trying to get it for. And it just took some time to make ends meet. And, there was a lot of complication. I don't want to say complications, but red tape, we'll put it, with zoning and, like all that, the parking situation. And that took a ton of time. And I wasn't going to, one of my contingencies on the deal was I'm not going to buy this property if I'm not going to get approved for all the things that are going to make the business.
Yeah, because you're screwed.
Yeah. So, and then how that is. You submit the application, you don't hear back for like 3 weeks. You can't get anyone on the phone. So that it just, each little facet of the transaction and creating the business all took a ton of time.
Yeah, that was the reason why I asked you if you didn't like the residential or commercial, like which one you liked better.
Yeah.
Because residential has so much less stuff that you have to do.
It's so much less, but once you learn the game, once you learn what they're looking for and the process and you get ahead of it, it's easy. Like it's
okay.
a bunch of garbage up front and then it's smooth sailing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I was one of our flip houses we did in the South Side slopes when it was like right before COVID, when Southside was like kind of the place to be.
Yeah.
Like right before it kind of did, which I think it's coming back, but
well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I try not to get around there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. But there was a couple years there where it was like, you don't go. But before that, we did a flip house there. And that's when I got my first taste of the Pittsburgh red tape. So I knew it was coming.
It's probably, I wonder what the difference would be if you weren't in Allegheny County, if you made this exact same project like somewhere else.
Well, that's look at the Market House,
Oh,
that's
true.
It was easy. That's Washington.
Oh, that's Washington. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That
So
makes
it was
sense.
like, hey, can we do this? And they're like, yep.
Yeah. I always hated doing projects in Allegheny County.
Yeah, it's tough.
So many more roles.
Yeah. And like some of their roles, it's like, okay, I understand this.
Yeah.
And then some of them, it's like, seriously. Yeah.
So
like,
stupid.
come on.
Yeah, so stupid.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm excited to see it in person once it opens up, and I'm excited to learn more about it.
Yeah.
I want to end with where people could follow you on all three, yourself, and then both your hotel and your wellness boutique, and then anything else.
Yeah. So as far as the hotel goes, Instagram at Villago PGH, Facebook's same thing, Villago, and then Solaio Bellezza Market House is the name of the market house. So that's at Solaio Bellezza on IG, and that's about it, man. That's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
For sure. Thank you for having me. Awesome. Appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah.